1. I used to work in the deli and seafood service department of a large chain supermarket. Had the job for a bit over 5 years between the ages of 16 to 21, so I have lots of stories from this one. This one definitely sticks out though. One evening in mid to late 2021, I was working a closing shift with a newer staff member. I had been supervising her most of the afternoon, but there comes a point in the evening where we have to split up in order to cover the monumental task of closing the department, washing floors, cleaning ovens, wrapping and putting away produce, things like that. She was over in seafood doing her thing and a customer came up to order. Keep in mind it was late in the day, probably around 7 or 8 p.m., so we were very low on fresh stock at this point. This guy seems really nice at first, and points out the kind of shelled prawns we have in our seafood marinara mix, among several other kinds of fish, and goes, "I want some of those, please." This poor girl assumes he just means the marinara mix and proceeds to scoop out a bit using a bag, and asks him if that's enough. The dude waves a hand in her face and raises his voice, speaking really slow, and explains in a super condescending way that he just wants the prawns, and that he knows we do the shelled ones separately, and he needs about 200 grams. At this point I realize what he's on about and I come over, ready to deliver my whole, "Sorry, we don't currently have those in stock. You know how COVID has been," spiel. He then asks us to just pick out the prawns from the marinara mix, which I tell him we can't do for food safety reasons, but I can show him a pre-packaged alternative in the adjoining open-faced fridge. Dude doesn't seem to hear me, and asks again why we don't have them in the fresh seafood section. Here is where I reckon I made my only mistake. I told him that I didn't know because I don't get to see what the suppliers send us. However, I hadn't seen them in a few weeks, and sometimes when that happens it means that the company is phasing out a product. Man proceeds to absolutely fly off the handle, waving his arms and raving about how it's the consumer who should decide what we do and don't stock, not us, the staff. And he keeps screaming this at the top of his lungs. I try to direct him again to the pre-packaged variety we keep close by, but he completely ignores me and demands to speak to my manager. Our department manager never took night shifts, a whole other story for a whole other post, and so I went one step further and called the store's assistant manager. She comes over and immediately solves the situation, after a bit more yelling and flapping on the guy's part, by pointing to the exact same product that I had been trying to show him. The kicker is, before he leaves, he looks at me and says two things to my manager. "This will work just fine. I don't understand why she didn't show me in the first place. Your staff really needs to work on educating themselves." I've worked in customer service my whole working life in both retail and hospitality gigs, and while younger baby me may have started crying, I just seethed. This was a minimum wage job and I had people treating me like this constantly. When the manager came over to get my side of the story, I told her everything. She just sighed and said, "Well, we do work in retail." I was so sick of that attitude by this stage and point blank told her that I didn't get paid enough to be treated that way, despite doing everything right. She just shrugged and told me to find another job. Joke's on her though, because a couple months later I did. Now half the department has quit, and they have to rehire and retrain a whole bunch of new staff. Screw customer service. 2. Happened a few days ago. I had been watching the self-checkout for the better part of the morning when my coworker Chris came over to send me home. I thanked him, got my junk, and just clocked out when the two older ladies came up.
"Do you have any registers open?"
Chris said, "Sorry, just me." Lady 2's face starts turning red.
"Why don't you have a register open?"
Chris just smiles. "Because I'm the only cashier at the moment."
"How are we supposed to check out? I don't want to use a self-checkout."
Chris walks over to one of the self-checkout registers and picks up the scan gun. "I can do it for you. I'll get you right here."
"I can do it myself."
Chris continues to stand there, looking a bit confused.
"Where's the manager? We need to talk to a manager." "This is terrible customer service."
I'm off to the side, stunned to see such a wackadoodle Karen, let alone two of them losing their bloody minds at my coworker. Chris continues to stand there, still confused, while the two keep screeching at him. They scream for a few minutes using the self-checkouts, wanting to talk to a manager, and then again about a register being opened. Finally, one of them decides they can head to customer service to be rung up by a real person. Lady 1 says loud enough for everyone to hear,
"He's a little bitch."
Chris is speechless over what just happened. At this point, I finally got over being stunned and realized I had an advantage. I didn't have a uniform on, I was also off the clock. I walked over to the two Karens who were craning their necks looking for someone at the customer service desk, completely ignoring the long line of people only a few feet away. "Excuse me, ma'am, that was my coworker you were yelling at."
"What?"
"That young man you were yelling at is my coworker."
"What does it matter?"
"Please don't yell at him. He was covering for me so I could go home." At this point, both the ladies focused their rage on me and started squabbling, demanding answers and explanations for a register being opened. And then they both turned around and walked a few paces away, talking with each other, and then came back to me. Lady 1 said,
"What'd it matter? You should hire more people."
My hands are shaking now as I raise my voice, "Because you need to treat people better." I was kind of expecting them to keep screaming or to walk away and ignore me. I didn't expect both of them to freeze and their expressions of anger to melt away and be replaced with dumbfounded expressions. Lady 1's mouth was open as if she was trying to put something together, while Lady 2 gave me the blankest stare I've ever seen. I fixed them with the dirtiest look I could, went to Chris to apologize for not acting sooner, and then left. Apparently, after I left, one of them put down the bottle of bug killer she was buying, and they both left without a word or speaking to a manager. And no calls have come in about the incident either. Not sure what to make of their reaction. 3. I work at a grocery store that offers Instacart, where we shop your order and when you're ready you can come pick it up from the store. The other day I was working on an order and this lady, rude lady, was shopping and being rude to other customers and employees. She kept leaving her cart in the middle of the aisle and walking 2 or 3 aisles over for something else, and if she came back or saw someone move her cart so they could get around it, she would yell that they were messing with her stuff. This other lady was looking at the ground beef and picked one up and put it in her cart, and the rude lady came running up and yelling, "I was coming to get that," and tried to take it out of the lady's cart. Thankfully, the other lady walked away before she could. So she asked if I had seen her steal that package of meat from her, and I responded, "No, but we have plenty of other ones here you can choose from. Or if they don't have one in the amount you need, the meat guys can package you up another one to the size you need." She didn't want that. She had to have the one the lady stole from her. I politely say I'm sorry and walked away to finish my order. About 5 minutes later, I hear her yelling at someone because they moved her cart to the side. So I walk over to see what was going on and ask her if she could keep her cart with her. And if not, please push it to the side so others can get around. She gives me a dirty look and I just walk away, trying to avoid problems. A few minutes later, I walk past her while looking at my phone to see what other items I need from that aisle for the order, and she says very rudely, "You're what's wrong with this world. Walking around looking at your phone instead of helping customers like me." I explain to her I'm doing Instacart and have to look at my phone to see what the person ordered, and she walks away saying, "And you're a liar also." So I got very annoyed with her after that. I completed the order and stored it in the cooler and went off to pull dates in one of the aisles, when I see her cart again sitting in the middle of the aisle. So I take it and walked it into the back of the store and put it into the cooler with the other Instacart orders, where she couldn't see it. And I hear this high-pitched squealing and yelling, saying, "Someone stole my stuff!" I checked the cart. She had no personal belongings in it, only items she had not purchased yet. My assistant manager went to talk to her because everyone in the store could hear her yelling, and she explained someone stole all her stuff and wants it back now. My AM asked her if her belongings like phone, purse, keys, or anything like that were missing, and the rude lady said no, just the items she was going to purchase. And she left the cart in aisle 4 and went to aisle 10 to get something else and came back and it was gone. So my AM explains that it was probably an employee thinking it was an abandoned cart and took it and put it in the back. And this made her even more mad, She then started demanding that we re-shop her order for her, which my assistant manager explains, "We don't do that at this time. I just got another order and was walking past her shopping that order." She points to me and says,
"She's shopping an order. Why can't she stop that and do mine?"
So my assistant manager then has to explain to her what the Instacart is and told her she's sorry about what happened. And my manager walks away thinking the situation was resolved. Nope. Rude lady then comes and finds me and says,
"You have to reshop my order. How will I know when it's done?"
I tell her no, I won't shop it, but she can download the app and put an order in and we will shop it when we receive it, and she can come pick it up when we are done. She got even more mad and stormed out of the store yelling,
"I will never shop here again."
Half the people that say that usually come back a week later. I did tell my boss what happened with her cart and why I did it, and he agreed with me on it, but I had to put all the groceries away, which was fine by me. 4. This happened when I was young, like maybe 10 or 12 or so, but it still strikes me as a weird but amusing moment in my childhood. Nothing immense or intense, just funny in hindsight. Whenever I was brought along to Walmart with my parents, I would just head to the tech section since I had fun looking at the flashing TVs and colorful video game boxes on display. Then I would just stick around until my parents came around to pick me up, sort of like child drop-off daycare but with less toys and more lights. I was rather tall and mature looking for my age at the time, with a bit of a stern, neutral expression that my mom said made me look mildly frustrated all the time. Because of that, people would assume I was older than I actually am upon first glance, which is exactly what happened. I was looking at the laptops for some reason, probably imagining how fun they would be to use when I was older, and then this short, stout, stern-looking woman comes up to me and asks about them. Now the thing is that I had no clue how they worked at the time. I'm still rather poor with them today. But I had a habit of babbling since I was a real shy kid and bullshitting since my conflict avoidance skills weren't the best, and interaction with a stranger definitely registered in my young antisocial head as conflict. So the next thing I knew, I was stuttering out information I could side-eye off of the cards, detailing the laptop's information and random lies I could come up with off the top of my head, while trying to slowly explain that I am very much not an employee, let alone old enough to be one. I don't know how much the woman believed, but she was nodding along, which seemed promising at the time. When I finally finished talking, she gave one more nod, said some vague affirmation like, "All right," and then grabbed my arm and dragged me over to an actual employee, and then asked them about computers again. And before any of you say I should have done something at the time, remember that I was stupid, shy, and had piss-poor conflict avoidance skills. So I either zoned out or just went with the flow at the moment. I do think I remember trying to subtly signal something was wrong to the actual employee, or maybe I gave them a vague, distressed expression. They definitely looked at me weird since this short older woman was hauling this tall guy around that had to hunch over since she was pulling me down a bit too far. Really nothing came about though. The employee gave her actual laptop details, and when they finished and left, the lady turned to me and said, "Thank you, son," or something along those lines, and left. Sort of an odd day I look back at with amused exasperation. 5. So I have a couple that are very minor interactions that don't really need their own individual posts. Ever since I, a 27-year-old female, have moved up to Oregon about 7 years ago, I've now had weird encounters with people assuming I work somewhere else. I've only ever had 2 jobs, one working in a fast food chain that has a different name depending on if you are on the West Coast or the East, and even then that was only for a month, and 2 is a subsidiary of one of the most popular grocery chains in the States. During my first year of working the grocery store job, I had a woman come up to me and ask why I stopped working at the office. I just looked at her, confused, and said I've never worked in an office.
"Sure you do, Shawnee."
Not my name, and I did have a name tag on.
"Polly told me you left because of your baby."
I'm even more confused now. My name isn't that, and I don't have a baby. My name is Oblivion Captain. The look on her face was priceless, and she just said, "Oh," and walked away. Another time, a gentleman came up to me and asked why he never saw me at Lush anymore. Me not knowing this at the time that there were two types of Lush stores. One was an NSFW place, and the other was the bath bomb place. I just told him that I never heard of that place before, and he just insisted until I walked away. Another time I was in a popular discount clothing store. I was meeting my mother to do some shopping. I was wearing my uniform, which at the time was a blue t-shirt, and said something along the lines of, "Here at blank store, the customer is always right," in big white letters on the back. I was browsing the clothes when a woman came up behind me and started clearing her throat. I'm oblivious to her because I wasn't working. "Excuse me?" My mom, now irritated as I turned to look at this woman. "Finally, where are your bathrooms?" "I don't know, I don't work here." My mom angrily points to my shirt. "She works at this store with the name here, or can you not read?" The woman just scoffs and walks away. The latest one, I was in a different grocery store, one that is familiar to Dangerous Path. And I had my lanyard around my neck. It's just a Bob's Burgers one that holds a small card-looking thing that allows me to get in and out of work, and a graphic t-shirt. I was scanning my purchases at the self-checkout when a woman asked if I was done. I said, "Yeah, I'm almost done ringing my stuff up. Do you need this machine?" "Oh no, just need help with clearing the screen." "Oh, sorry, I can't help with that. I don't work here." "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you did." I told her it was fine. I get it a lot and finished and left. They aren't big, dramatic stories, but I think they're funny encounters. I mean, I had someone tell me my mother wasn't my mother before, too. Since some people will still be curious, after we first got to Oregon, my mom and I stopped at a Mickey D's for something quick to eat. Mind you, we had just entered the town like 30 minutes prior. I look like my mom, the exact copy, and the only differences are I have a round face and she has a heart-shaped face, and she has facial piercings. We walked out to our car, and someone started calling to me. It was a family of 3 with a father, mother, and daughter. "Shirley? Shirley?" My mother and I exchanged a look with each other. "Shirley, why are you ignoring us?" I point to myself. "Me?" The mother of the group says, "Yes, you. Why are you acting like you don't know us?" "Because I don't. My name isn't Shirley." "Yes, it is Shirley." My mom chimes in, "Why are you harassing my daughter? You're not her mother is Donna Marie." "What is wrong with you?" my mom says. "You can clearly see she looks just like me." "I think you're wrong," my mom says without skipping a beat. "Well, tell that to my vagina after I gave birth to her." With that, we walked away. I have no idea who they thought I was, and why they would say I'm not my mother's daughter, because there's literally no way anyone can deny that I look like my mom. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Adventures in Fast Food and Retail, episode 160. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. And before you go, if you could please hit the like button and send the video to a friend or family member. Okay, this originally went up on a Sunday, I believe, so good times, good times. I don't believe there's any special shoutouts for today, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is: favorite horror movie franchise that they no longer make movies in that you'd like to see come back? Or maybe it was one that was meant to be a franchise that never got off the ground and you just love it. For me, it's one of the big ones. It's Friday the 13th. And I think if you're a fan of Friday the 13th, then you know about the legal issues surrounding it. Basically, different people own different parts of it, and they seem to be having trouble finding an agreement that everyone's happy with. I've heard rumblings that might be happening soon, but we shall see. These are often very complicated issues, and everybody's going to want different things. All comes down to money and making sure everybody gets a fair cut. Of course, that being said, the day we live in, everything comes back, everything gets remade, it seems. Hell, sometimes there's only a few years between something ending and it getting rebooted. But let me know what you think. Let me know what some of your favorites are in the comment below. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.